G'day there, everyone. You're listening to another episode of Strike Me Peak. I am Ben Hook. I am with the number one sports presenter in South Australia, Tom Wren. We do this in a hurry, and it's all as a tribute to the great Ken KG Cunningham and his catchphrase, Strike Me Peak. Tommy, good afternoon. Another busy day in the newsroom.
Absolutely. Good afternoon to you, Hooky. Plenty happening in the world of cricket. Can you believe it? In August, footy and all other sports as well. So looking forward to sinking our teeth into it.
We were a little bit worried about how Bangladesh would perform after a Cricket Australia 11, essentially made up of a bunch of blokes who are fringe Sheffield Shield players, absolutely blitzed the Bangladeshis in that tour match, but they're performing okay, so we can time code this. Australia are all out for under 200. I think it was about 188, wasn't it? And Bangladesh in reply 1 for 55 at the moment. So day one honours are certainly going to land with the visitors, which certainly didn't see that coming, and it'll be interesting to see how Australia fights back over the next few days.
It's been amazing, hasn't it? Like, they were bowled out for, I think, 54 against a Cricket Australia Invitational 11, and we all thought they're going to be, horrible. This will be over in 2 days, maybe 2.5. But here we are, Hooky, and spot on. They're, within 130, 140 of Australia's first innings, 9 wickets in hand. Yeah, you'd still back Australia to win from here, but just puts a little bit of pressure on. And you know what? Test minnows need exposure. They need to play against the big boys, and good on them at the moment. They're standing up.
Yeah, which is fantastic, and fantastic for the Test match brand. We'll talk a little bit more about the Test a little bit later on, but I think we need to just lead off with the news earlier this week that Tex Taylor Walker is going to retire at the end of the year. 316 games he has already played. He has just been an icon of the club and the sport. Tom, firstly, did the news catch you a little bit by surprise?
It did. Yeah, I thought that there might be a consideration to potentially go on. He's still playing great footy. He's done this for probably 4 or 5 seasons where, at the start of the year you think, he's done. And then he comes home really strongly and he's doing it again. So I thought maybe there's a bit left, but I think it's a good time, Bookie, isn't it? There's a little bit of juice left and we're saying he probably could go on. That's a good way to go out as opposed to get this guy off. He's finished. In terms of the Pantheon, Hooky, I reckon it's Rashudo, and I'd love to get your thoughts. Rashudo, McLeod, and then I think you can throw a blanket over probably 10 players. I think there's Goodwin, Hart, Smart, Wren, Scott Thompson, I think deserves to be up there. Walker's in there as well. I think, he deserves to be in that discussion if you're having your 4 Mount Rushmores. And then I think, though, in terms of impact and connection with fans and what he means to the fabric of the footy club, I reckon Modra's still number 1 for me.
Yeah.
You and I are old enough to remember what it was like in the 90s when they were a one-team town. He was just bigger than Ben Hur. I mean, remember Godra. He's number 1. And then I think 2 and 3 comfortably. I don't know in what order, and I'd love to get your thoughts. Eddie Betts and Taylor Walker. Those 3, I think, head and shoulders, have meant more than anything to the fans than anyone else at the footy club.
So I'll take those on because both of them are sort of interesting and different. I hadn't thought about category number 2, but I've definitely got Rashudo and McLeod at 1 and 2, and I've got Walker comfortably 3. So that's ahead of Simon Goodwin, Tyson Edwards. So they're the other 2 300 gamers. And that's not to diminish or throw shade on all of their achievements, but I've just got Taylor as having surpassed them and what he's done in the game and for the club. Mm-hmm. No premiership, of course, for Tex, and we all thought that was going to be a bit of a Monty in 2017. Didn't we, where Richmond did the number on them? But that's where I've got him as an outright footballer. Then, I think the influence and just what he has stood for at the club, it's probably number 2 behind Modra.
Yeah.
It's really interesting with Modra because he has largely been quite reclusive. It's not that he's shy or avoids the media. He's just not someone that's ever searched for the limelight. I mean, Taylor on Triple M every Tuesday or whatever it is and has his TV deals and those sorts of things, and all respect for that. But it was just fascinating that Mods never really went down that road at any stage in his career or beyond. And I know he does a little bit of charity stuff and those sorts of things now, but he's never been one to chase the limelight, which is sort of incredible that you still have him as the number 1 icon of the football club. But yeah, Taylor Walker just behind that. So I think it has been an incredible career on and off the field, and one that, I don't know that I would regard Taylor as a friend. He's always very friendly to me. I mean, we only live around the corner from each other, so I do bump into him quite a bit. But I'm going to really miss him when he's gone. And yes, I think your point's well made that a bit like Shane Warne. you know, when Shane Warne retired after those 700 wickets and could have played another year or two, but went with us wanting that little bit more. And I think that is an admirable way to go, rather than, you know, squeeze every last drop out of the rag. But I'm going to miss him. I've absolutely loved what he stood for as a footballer and as a human being. You know, wonderful with his kids, wonderful family man. And the football club will be poorer for his departure.
It's a great call, Hooky. I think because of all the things that he's done as well, like led the club through some horrific times, you know, was made captain by Phil Walsh, and then the coach dies midway through the season, leads the club out of that, leads them through all the, you know, pre-season camp stuff that happened. And then he's had his trials and tribulations, and I think he's shown he's human. But look, you and I are lucky to see it, and I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching this would also have seen him. I have never seen anyone better when people, and he wouldn't know I'm seeing it or that you're seeing it. I've never seen anyone better when they're talking to kids, when they're talking to people that are perhaps disadvantaged or have a disability. He speaks to everybody the same way and with the same respect. And you doff your cap to people like that and say you're a genuine person. And he's just a ripper bloke. You just know that what you see is what you get, and he's a bit cheeky too, which we all love.
Personal stories, and this, you know, this is just me. This is not the whole world, so you know, I temper that. But your point very well made about him being so engaging and so genuine with everyone. I've got a little jogging course, and I'm a jogger, mate. I'm not a runner, so it's a shuffle at best. And it does go past his house, so I know where he lives. And I will shuffle past his place, and if he's at the front, I might, you know, I've got the earbuds in, and I try not to be too effusive and just get a text or something like that. And he's always Hooky, you know, he's always like excited to see you, and I think, oh God, maybe I should stop and say good day. You know, just sort of keep shuffling on. But it just that sort of guy, and you know, he doesn't have to have a relationship with me, but he just seems to always feel like he's happy to see someone. And you know, for everything he's done in football, on and off the field, that might be his greatest attribute. He is just a genuinely warm, empathetic human being. You're a double A man, and I just have to point out that he did an hour on Triple M on Tuesday, and it was quite frankly fantastic radio. And I just thoroughly enjoyed the emotion of it. I felt myself welling up a bit when he talked about his kids, or when he talked about the moment that Phil Walsh said he wanted him to be captain of the Adelaide Football Club. They were really genuine, raw, emotional moments, and it was nice to just hear him reflect on those sorts of moments in such an emotional manner. So it's been a great week for him. We've got to move on though, and I've got to ask you: do you think he plays tonight? Because tomorrow night, because it's fascinating that he's on the plane.
I don't think he's going to. And look, this will all be, you know, interesting when the team comes out. But he's made the trip. There's 26 going over. I went to the press conference with Matthew Nicks yesterday, and it seems utterly bizarre that he's going to go and not play. But I think that's how they're thinking. I think had he not announced the retirement, Tex said on that interview on Triple M that he was probably going to be rested, but now the retirement had thrown things. But I think he's perhaps just going there to soak it up. It'd be the last time he goes west. But strange call not to play him. It's a huge game. But in short answer to your question, no, I don't think he's going to play.
And that's the only thing that stands out to me. If you want to play him, play him. And his line in that interview that he did was, "I'll rest for the rest of my life. You know, I can never rest from the end of September until the year 2080 or however much longer he goes on." But I could not understand the concept of flying him all the way over there and all the way back if he wasn't going to play. That just, I would not give him the boarding pass if it was up to me. I don't think he needs to play. I think, look, Adelaide could throw everything at this and lose anyway.
Yeah.
They're in an interesting position, Fremantle, because they're already confirmed for a top two. But I just feel like Adelaide have got bigger fish to fry. They want to be absolutely cherry ripe for finals. Wherever they finish, they've got to win a final or two. And if they end up in a wildcard game, so be it. But I just don't think it's sound to play Tex, and it's certainly not sound to fly him and not play.
Yeah, it's bizarre if he doesn't play. Either way, it's fascinating what they do. For what it's worth, I actually think they're going to give the Dockers a red hot shake tomorrow night, and I may be made to look totally foolish, you know, in 36 hours or so. But I think they're going to give them a real crack. I do. I think Isaac Rankin's in good form. They were so poor last week. I just hope they attack the game with a bit more vigour than what we saw against Richmond, because that was one of the all-time stinking games. But I do think they're going to give a bit, and they have to, Hooky. This is their season, I think. The difference between winning and potentially finishing 4th and 7th, I think in 20 years' time, if it's still going, the wild card, I think we'll say, oh, there was one team that made from the grand final from the wild card. I don't think it'll be much more than that. You've got to win 5 games to take it out, 4 just to get there. If they finish 7th, they're not going any further than the second week of the final. So they have to give absolutely everything tomorrow night, and even that might not be good enough, but I'm really, really fascinated by how they go against the Dockers.
Yeah, I actually almost have a bit of a different feeling. I don't think Adelaide were really a genuine chance of the flag anyway, but they've got to find a way to win a final, maybe 2. And if that's from 7th and get into an elimination final and win one that way and play a semi-final, I'm okay with that. But I do feel like the worst thing that could happen to Matthew Nicks is to spend all his petrol on getting into an elimination final directly and blowing it. That's probably the worst case scenario for Adelaide. They're almost better off winning a wildcard game and losing at the elimination final stage than losing by making the elimination final directly, all to play out. Hey, just very quickly, Tom, because we keep this inside 20 minutes, big on opinion, short on time is our motto. The concussion saga, we spoke about it exactly this time last week, thinking that you probably needed to see the chairman of the AFL, Craig Drummond, stand aside, and that wasn't where the AFL or Geelong was going in the early days. A week on, you've had a chance to, I guess, assess all of the media on it. You've had a chance to assess for yourself how you think it's been managed. Where are we at right now, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's good that they've gone for an independent KC to review it. I think it had to. I don't think the AFL were going to win any PR points if they did an analysis from within. I've been fascinated and intrigued as well that people have been red hot on Geelong, and maybe there's a bit of tall poppy there. You know, people are sick of Geelong being at the top of the tree, but I think genuinely, Hooky, just looking at social media and hearing talk back, people are furious that there's this perception, and I don't know if you're hearing the same thing, but there is a perception out there that Geelong get away with it. Hinkley cops a $20,000 fine for, doing this. And, people are saying, well, where's the punishment here for Geelong? Stephen Trigg and the Adelaide Crows, they had draft picks taken away for mismanaging a contract. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly the same. It might be apples and oranges, but I think there has to be a pretty significant fine and or some other penalty. Otherwise, I think, you're going to have a bit of disengagement from certainly a lot of fans and potentially even football clubs too, I'm sure, behind closed doors.
2 years of draft picks, 2 staff members banned for months on end, a $300,000 fine. We're going back, 10, 12 years ago now. So $300,000 back then, best part of, it's probably over $500,000 now when you're talking about the growth of money in AFL football. So, we'll keep a watch on it. I thought the other thing that was fascinating was Andrew Dillon, who came and did the rounds of the media with all of the radio broadcasters on the Saturday and was determined to say, but Geelong have owned it. Well, they got dragged kicking and screaming to the table because of the news report. It took them a long time to own it. And I might also make the point, if we just refer back to Adelaide, they self-reported the Kurt Tippett third-party deal that hadn't been lodged with the AFL. The language is almost entirely similar, and I don't think Adelaide got a discount for owning it. So I think it's just one of those things we will keep an eye on. But it's understandable that we're all sceptical, and I understand what you say. Geelong often seem to skate. I feel like there is some scenarios here where the AFL know a bit more about this and they've probably led on, and it's going to be very, very difficult to come down with an iron fist against Geelong when they're possibly implicated. It's going to be interesting to watch how it all plays out.
Isn't it? Yeah, and I think once we, get the... And that's it. You just hope that there's full transparency because, again, otherwise people will be sceptical. And, I think we just wait now to see what punishment, if any, is going to be handed down. But I think there has to be some kind of punishment.
We are way behind time here, mate, as we usually are. We're going to get straight into the stock exchange. This is where we buy, sell and hold commodities in around South Australian and Australian sport. If you had a couple of grand that you were sitting on, Tommy, what share commodity would you be buying right now on the Australian Stock Exchange?
Well, it's funny because this person's already been bought and been
You're buying more.
But I'm going to buy more. He's 18. I think he's going to lead a golden generation for the Socceroos. I'm going to buy a bit more of Lucas Harrington. I think he's going to be a star. He's the only player that's going to be in the Premier League, I think, this season. He's gone for, 24.5 million, I think, overnight to Hull City being confirmed. I think he's going to be a rock star. I think he's going to be really, really good. So well done to Hull. I think they've got a good buy there. It's a risk, of course, but I think he's going to be worth probably double that, triple that for his next contract. So well done, Lucas Harrington. I think he's going to be a gun.
Love it, mate. That's not one that I had considered actively in my mind, but I enjoy the fact that you bring a lot of diversity here. I'm going to buy as much as I possibly can of Travis Head and Alex Carey. Both of them looked the goods in the first innings here and both kind of got themselves out, and they were both filthy as they walked off. I think by the end of this series, both of them will have put at least one, maybe two really big scores on. So I'm happy to buy them now. They're probably a slightly inflated price, but I reckon it's only heading north. What do you want to sell?
I think I was holding them last week, so I'll sell them this week. Sell the Saints. Unfortunately, they're going to miss, and they're going to finish in that dreaded 11 to 13 bracket, aren't they? So
worst.
I feel sorry for them, but not sorry for them, but it's been tough because of the injuries they got with Naz going down in the first 10 minutes. It kind of sucked the whole air out of the game. But I'm selling the Saints. Unfortunately, it's going to be a season of disappointment again for them.
Taking a bit of a hit on the share price there, Tommy. I have to say I'm about to sell Test cricket up in the top end in August because I love it, but I've got to sell it because I just reckon it's got a short shelf life. Next year, we're playing the Ashes in August. Mm-hmm. We won't be seeing any sort of home winter series like this. In 2028, half of this team's going to be missing. At least half of this team's going to be missing. It's going to be a new generation that cuts its teeth on T20 and short form cricket. And I can see a lot of guys signing up for the 100 over and above playing for Australia against Afghanistan or Zimbabwe up in the top end because there's going to be a heck of a lot more money to be made. So as much as I'm really enjoying what I'm watching here and Bangladesh continue to fight on about 1 for 80 now. Looks like just a finger tipper went down off of Nathan Lyons. Might have just not shelled one, but anyway, 1 for 77. I reckon that might be about a minute and a half behind. I've been rewinding a bit. But I think that's going to go very quickly south, Test cricket in August, because there just won't be enough interest from the top players to play it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an awkward time of year, isn't it? They get very little time off as it is. So might be difficult to maintain that moving forward.
So you've cashed in on the Saints. Is there anything you are going to show a bit more faith in and hold your share price in?
I'm going to hold him, but I think he needs runs. I love him, and so do you, I know, Hooky, but Jake Weatherall, he was the story of this series for me. I reckon if he makes 100, they've got this block of 21 test matches we know, but I think he needs 100 in these first two to really sort of, I reckon a test match, 100 buys you about 3 or 4 tests.
Yep.
And I think he needs one. He needs one quickly, Hooky. So second innings, if Bangladesh have got a lead, that's an important time. He's got to go out there and make a big score. So I'm going to hold him, but he needs to deliver pretty quick.
Point's really well made because there's going to be 3 or 4 rounds of Sheffield Shield cricket before we get to the opening test against New Zealand. Cricket Australia have said they want better batting pitches. You would expect that someone is going to come out and make a big bucket load of runs as an opening batter in the first 3 or 4 games. And if Jake Weatherall is exposed, that's going to put the selectors under a lot of pressure to keep their faith in him. Good answer. I'm going to run with Cam Green. A lot of people are off him.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hold him a little bit longer. I just think it is best. He gives Australia an extra pair of legs, his capacity to bowl, his capacity to field superbly in the gully. And when he's batting well, he bats really well. He's just in that sort of reckless frame of mind at the moment where he makes silly mistakes that he doesn't need to when I feel like he's got the game in the palm of his hands. But I'm going to hold on to Cam Green and see where we end up with him in maybe another 12 months' time. Tom, we play the 3-word verdict. I'm going to give you some newsworthy people and identities and organisations in the world of South Australian and Australian sport, and you can give me 3 words on how you assess how they're going at the moment. I'm going to start with Craig Drummond.
I can go fewer than 3 words, can't I?
Yes. It's your game, mate. You play it how you like.
Under public judgment, I would say.
Well done. That was 3 words. Very nice. Eddie Maguire.
Stock is rising.
Isn't it? Yeah.
I think he's had such a visible career and he's up and down, but I think at the moment people are loving him again.
it almost seems like this has been his long-term destiny to end up as the AFL commissioner. It would be amazing if he fell into it under these circumstances, but that may be where we're going to end up. AFL Integrity Unit.
Under fire.
AFL Integrity Unit, it simply lacks integrity. I would suggest, Tom. I had the AFL Gender Diversity Policy Committee. So do you know where I'm going here? And we don't talk about this beforehand, but this is Freya Golding, who is has transitioned to a woman and is now eligible under an instruction from the AFL Gender Diversity Policy Committee that she can play in the Women's Amateur League for Westminster Old Scholars.
Mm-hmm. Needs to change, I would say, to the policy. Needs to change is my thought.
Very comfortable with that. So we should just declare here, you and I are both ambassadors of the Adelaide Footy League.
Yep,
I want to put that out there for a start, but I am absolutely 100% in lockstep with the position of the league here and the clubs that have had concerns around Freya Golding being able to play in the women's competition. I want to go back to when Hannah Mountsie was trying to be eligible for the AFLW draft, and it was the AFL who said that due to safety concerns, they couldn't offer her a spot on an AFL list. Now, the gender diversity policy says that diversity shouldn't exclude someone even if there is an unfair competitive advantage. And I can swallow that. But there's no mention of safety like they mentioned around the issue with Hannah Mountsie. And I think that is the big concern for all of these clubs here is they just want their players to feel safe.
Yeah.
And they patently do not at the moment, and I'm surprised, even stunned, that wasn't taken into consideration when safety was the number one parameter around Hannah Mountsie.
Well, when you see, this transgender player and the size difference between some of the girls that are playing, it's just, I mean, if you were the father, Hooky, you've got a young daughter, you'd be genuinely, and look, they play footy. It's a tough physical game, but that seems like a disparity it's difficult to overcome.
Tom, I've got two daughters. One of them plays Australian rules football for her school. And yes, if that progressed to having to play against someone who was previously a male, I'd feel very, very uncomfortable. And I don't resile from that fact. So those three clubs who put in their complaints and the Adelaide Footy League who tacitly, and I think now have publicly come out supporting that, I very much in lockstep with the position that they have found themselves in. Tom, so much more to talk about, but why don't we cut to Hooky's local sport?
Yes, I love this.
I want to tell you about the story of Amy Jones. She just won the Gina Dutchke medal for the best and fairest player in the Division 1 Adelaide Footy League competition. So back to a bit of a reflection on the Adelaide Footy League. She's from the Broadview Football Club. She spent 5 years in the SNFLW development program, never really found her way, spent some time at Sturth, North, Glenelg, all the time would go back and play for Broadview. She's been there for the last 5 years. She's got Thai heritage. Her mum is quite a well-known identity in Thailand. Is like one of those online cooks, which is quite cool. But this is the real kicker here, Tom. She's an apprentice electrician who is, while she's studying her electrician apprenticeship, is also doing a degree in electrical engineering. So you can imagine trying to play decent level football, being an apprentice and doing all your apprentice studies, but also doing a degree on top of that. She is unique, dare I suggest. And I was actually at the football club on Monday night when we made the presentation to her, and she is just absolutely adored by her teammates. They've got a preliminary final on Saturday against Henley. That'll be played at Payneham. But Amy Jones, just these incredible identities that you come across in these local leagues. It's another wonderful story.
Yeah, those local stories, that's what it's all about, people that are doing great things in the community as well as on the sporting field. So I love it. Lovely way to finish the show.
Just one more before we go. I thought this was interesting. There's a couple of boys who put on a 100-run partnership in the Queensland Century League. Do you remember we used to have an Adelaide Premier League here, which was a 100-ball competition, privately run out of Queensland, and it's kind of diminished back and gone more strongly in Queensland. A couple of boys, first names Riley and Austin, put on a 100-run partnership between the two of them in one of the games earlier in the week. One was Austin Waugh, son of Stephen. The other was Riley McCallum, son of Brendan, the former England coach.
Gee whiz. Couple of players to watch.
Big names together. Tom, if I can fast forward you through to Monday morning, what's going to be the headline in the Adelaide Advertiser?
I think it's got to be Fraser the man. I think Fraser appointed. He'll win again against the Bulldogs on the weekend. I think they're too strong for them, and he'll have the job. They've just got to lock it in now. I think 10-2. If he wins on the weekend, it'll be 11-2 after a 1-8 start of the season. Fraser's the man. That's my
Find it hard to think it's going to go any other way, and I reckon we'll know an Essendon coach probably a day after as well. My Monday headline, Australia rest 4 for the second test. I think they all lined up pretty determined to play this first test, but there'll be a couple of those old boys very, very happy to put their feet up. I wouldn't be stunned, and I know Travis said well enough, wouldn't be stunned if all throughout that second test he's already booked a few tea times in some exotic places in North Queensland, around Cairns and so forth. So I think you're going to find that a lot of those blokes will take the second test off. We could have a very, very new look team for the second test.
Well, that's if they get it done, Hooky. And look, we think they'll still get it done, but they've got some work to do. They've got their work cut out. So fingers crossed they get a wriggle on here.
1 for 89,
Oh, my goodness.
the Bangladeshis. So going along very, very nicely indeed. I still think Australia wins this test pretty comfortably at some point. But yeah, probably not a great toss to win and bat. I think the wicket was always going to play more difficult in those opening couple of sessions. That's why it's played out. Before we go, I've got your thoughts on Crows and Freo. Port and Melbourne. Port, any chance?
I don't think so. I know they've got a few players that are coming back. Joe Richards, Jason Francis looks like he's going to play, but I still think Melbourne, they're humming. I think they're a 5-6 goal better team for me.
Love you, Rehnny. Always a highlight of my week. Great to chat to you. We'll do it all again next week, mate.
You're a star. Thanks, Hooky.
On you, mate.